Yeah.
But in actuality, like we don't need more imitations of people. We need people like in their own lane. And so for me, the way that I got unstuck was really taking my creative process back to the bones and making it about creation. Knowing your readers, knowing your audience, knowing what they want is so critical because like you have this opportunity to really serve them. Like they're
Yeah.
following you for a reason.
Welcome back to the show today. We are here with one of my favorite smart girls, Hannah Brencher. She's a best-selling author, speaker, and course creator, among other things. She is back on the show. I know she is a favorite. She is sharing today some behind the scenes that you won't get anywhere else. That is why I love Smart Girl Summer. And after we talk with Hannah, it's time for coaching. Today we're wrapping up the Success Secret series. I will not miss having to get that out every week. I'm giving you my number one tip for success. This is the thing above all else that puts it all together for you. Final segment of the show, I'm bringing you a fun movie that you are going to love to see. Okay, without further ado, here's my friend Hannah. Hannah Brencher, welcome to Smart Girl Summer. You are the first smart girl that we've asked to come back, and 4 seasons of Smart Girl Summer because you are such a smart girl. I find you amazing and phenomenal. As a fellow writer and entrepreneur, how in the world do you describe what you do? How do you tell people what you do?
So I am an author, I am a writer, and I am an online educator. I would say those are the main things. I have a heart for teaching people how to establish routines and rhythms and discipline into their daily life so that they can show up more intentionally to their lives, to their spaces. I've worn a lot of hats over the year and I still do, but I feel like that has become like my core mission in daily life, where my courses flow from, where my words flow from, is helping people be more intentional and present in their daily lives.
I love that. Do you have a part of your work that you enjoy most? Because I always say writing a book for me is like punching myself in the nose for 8 months. I love what I get out of it, but I really don't like doing it. So, are there parts of your work that you enjoy more or a little less?
I feel you on the writing of the book. I do love writing books. I do feel like when I'm in that space, it's this tension between this is awful, I want this to end, it's all consuming, but then also like this kind of energy of like, this is what I was made for, you know? But honestly, I feel like my favorite part is just content creation in general.
Mm.
Like I just love it. I just love coming up with new ideas, throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. And I think my content process has like changed a lot over the years, whereas like I was for a long time very creatively drained. And now I feel like there's new life to it. And so I'd say probably that part.
Let's talk about when you were creatively drained. That's really interesting because I think so many people go through that,
Yeah.
whether they're just thinking about moving into writing or entrepreneurship, or we've been doing it for 10 years and all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm done. Stick a fork in me. What did it look like for you? What caused it?
I think it was slowly happening over time without me realizing it. And in 2021, that was when I started to unplug and power down. And that was very pivotal for me in a lot of ways that I didn't know immediately. And so a few months into choosing to start turning off my phone more intentionally was when kind of the light bulb went off of like, oh, I'm hating this part of my job. Like, I'm not liking social media anymore. I feel so much better and more at peace when I'm offline. And I kind of saw that as like a fork in the road of like,
Yeah.
we need to figure this out because if it's not fun anymore, we're not doing it. And I saw a lot of people leaving the app at that time, and
Yeah.
people are still like leaving the apps. And so for me, I really kind of had to get to the core of like, why do I feel burnt out and how can we change it so that it's more fun? Because it was always meant to be fun, you know? I think for me at least, like it was always a fun platform until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so honestly, like why that was is I think like we spend so much time on these apps every single day that it's easy to feel like it's a gauntlet. It's easy to feel like you're comparing yourself to other people. It's easy to see a lot of trends, especially in 2024, and be like, oh, well, that's working for them. I could do that too.
Yeah.
But in actuality, like we don't need more imitations of people. We need people like in their own lane. And so for me, the way that I got unstuck was really taking my creative process back to the bones and making it about creation. And then content came out of the overflow of that.
I love that. So you mentioned the word burnout. What did burnout look like for you?
Burnout manifested in a lot of different ways. I think it was feeling stressed all the time, feeling anxious, feeling like I wasn't giving my best to the people that I needed to be giving my best to. And it was something that I wrote about and processed was the reality that like the more that I was on my phone, I was giving whatever energy I had to the people that were there, whether I knew them or not, in my inbox, on social media. And then whatever was the scraps was going to the people that I loved. And that was definitely a hard shift I had to make of like, oh, no, 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 no. Like these people are like my first, like, like these people are my team. And so I need to flip this on its head. I need to be able to switch it so that, yeah, I'm still giving people energy online, but like those are not my 2 a.m. phone calls. And so something
Yeah,
had to shift for me. And so I think burnout really manifested in that way for me was just like I felt irritable about things that had never made me irritable. I felt like I couldn't fully be like present in the moment. And that's when I knew like things needed to shift.
that's good. I think people could be creators and feel like that, writers, but they may be accountants and teachers and feel like that because we do get sucked into the social media vortex
Yeah.
where we give our attention and the best of ourselves away when we have a real life that needs things. I heard the psychotherapist Esther Perel say recently that we have the worst AI is artificial intimacy, and she said, "I
Mm,
may have 1,000 friends online, but I don't have anyone to feed my cat." I was
wow.
like, "Oh,
Wow. Yeah, that hits.
yeah, yeah." So I think it is really important for us to start paying attention to how we're feeling and like are we giving the best of ourselves away to a relationship that isn't really there? A relationship with
Yeah.
who knows who, the best of our energy, the best of our time, so much. So I had you on 2 years ago. I'm going to throw you for a loop with this question. How do you
Okay.
feel like the last 2 years have changed you?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm a completely different person than I was 2 years ago, like
Yeah.
completely different. And I don't know if like people can see that from like the outside, but like I know I have done so much deep internal work and I don't want to like keep coming back to like, oh, through the power of unplugging, but at the same time, like
Oh,
that
hold on. Side note, we should mention you are coming back on the podcast this fall to talk about it because it is your new project. But
it
that's the thing.
is.
It takes over your life when it
It
is your new
does.
project. So don't give
It
anything,
does.
don't give too much away now. But talk about how it changed you.
Yeah, it was, I had this moment. It was my 33rd birthday, which was what, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
where I always treat my birthday like a second New Year,
Yeah.
like which maybe I'm like learning to do less of that, but like I'm always like, what can we do in the next year? And like, what are their goals and all this stuff? And that's how I've always approached my birthday. But I remember that birthday feeling particularly like worn out, a little bit burnt out as we were talking about. And as I was just sitting there with my notebook and just kind of like listening, like I just felt this nudge to turn off my phone. And
Mhm.
it felt like it wasn't like a turn off your phone today. It felt like, oh no, this is supposed to be what the next year is all about.
Wow.
And so the part of me that like loves a plan came up with a plan of like, okay, I'm gonna try to unplug for 1,000 hours in 1 year. And I thought that's all it would be was a challenge, but I had
Yeah.
no idea that like I was literally going to take my life back and that I didn't even know that my life had been taken from me. And I think that's part of being an entrepreneur and having been on the internet for over a decade. It's like little by little, you change and you develop, but you have to be really careful that you don't change and to develop into what you think other people want you to be.
True.
And so for me, over the last 2 years, I think a lot of it has been getting back to my creative roots, getting back to my creative process. Even down to like, I used to, the last few books I wrote on the computer, and this past book, like, wrote it all on yellow notepads.
Love it.
Um, Getting back to, I feel like I'm back to the person that I was like 10, 11 years ago, but I know so much more. And so yeah, it's hard to really like bottle that up, but I would say one of the biggest things for me is that like I built what a lot of scholars and theologians call like an inner world. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have an inner world. I had whatever anyone around me would say about me and the propensity to people please. And now I feel like I have secret spaces where I draw my strength from, and then I walk out in that.
I love that. So, how did it change how you run your business? Because you changing so much and the way
Yeah.
you operate, how did this change your business?
I think what has changed is like I'm still very driven and I still love excellence, but a lot of that hustle culture has fallen off of me
Mm.
little by little, and it was painful to let it go because there's a part of me that like loves a good hustle and like loves the whole like let's burn the midnight oil. But then I also realized like if my worth comes out of what I produce, then what happens in seasons where I'm not producing? What happens
Yeah.
in seasons where I can't produce? And a big thing, a big shift for me was when our daughter was 18 months old. She all of a sudden started getting sick. We had no idea what was going on, but she was throwing up every single day, every time we
Oh.
got in the car, when she'd wake up in the morning. She couldn't communicate and tell us what was going on. We ended up going back and forth to the hospital. And it was a season where we were on just like high alert because you know, in
Yeah.
any moment the day could change and we'd have to be testing her blood sugars and we'd have to be on all sorts of alerts. And in that season was where I was like, you know what? Like, I think that my productivity definition needs to change
Mm.
because if I believe I'm only worthy when I'm producing something, then that means I'm not worth anything in this season because I'm really not producing. And so I started to look at it and not just say like, okay, it's great to get things done, but to say, okay, in seasons where it's hard or seasons where it's slow or seasons where it's waiting, what's being produced in me and how can I go through life and go through business seeking to learn as much as I possibly can. And if that's the goal, then every day I'm actually being successful.
I love that. Now, from a practical perspective, how do you balance that with also needing to bring in revenue?
I mean, I still have, metrics and goals and things to strive for, but I also think like in everything that I do, I've started to keep more notes of like, I call them like, I'm always learning, and I try to look at situations, especially obstacles that come up
Yeah.
and say, okay, like, what am I learning from this? What could I shift about this? What could I change about this? And the same thing goes for revenue goals. Okay, if
Good.
I create a course and the course isn't selling, okay, what do we need to learn about this situation? Or how can we grow or get better in order to increase that revenue? And so there's definitely still that side of it. But I
Hmm.
think realizing, like, oh, okay, I was placing that as the focus for a long time. And as a result, I was missing other things when I first got into this business were the most important things to me, like people, like being generous. And so
Yeah.
I've tried to make that shift backwards
Good.
and still collect the data because I think the data is important, but we can always learn something in the process.
I think that's great. You mentioned your courses. I created a course aptly titled Create a Course. So I want to talk to you about courses for a little
Yeah,
bit. Um,
love it.
what, how has selling courses and creating courses change for you through the years? Talk about your journey of when you first started and what you're learning and some takeaways that I think the audience would love because you do it so successfully.
Yeah, so I mean, I started doing live classes, I think back in 2015, and that
Hmm.
was before we were even really putting like courses on like the docket. But I just loved that chance to be able to like meet with people in that avenue. And it's kind of like a mini speaking, or actually a longer speaking engagement when you get like a longer
Yeah,
course. And so it was something I always had a passion for creating because I love to teach people, and I'm very much like not a gatekeeper. I will give you everything that I have learned and like believe that there is more to come. Um, but so for me, like in 2020 with the pandemic, that actually really shifted, and it shifted at the right time for me. And I understand like the privilege in saying that of like the pandemic had some good effects on me, but like I had a baby 2 weeks after everything shut down, and I was very much wondering, okay, what am I going to do with my revenue streams when the bulk of what I was doing was speaking, traveling and speaking? And so I made a concerted effort to shift into the online course space. One, because I wanted to be home with my daughter, and two, because I teach about habits and rhythms and discipline, and my habits, rhythms, and disciplines are not the best when I'm traveling. Like it's hard for
totally.
me to be away from home. I'm a
Yeah.
homebody. And so I've been, learning and growing ever since. But I would say the biggest thing that I would say to people like creating online courses is like take some courses, invest in some courses to learn what you like and what you don't like and your learning approaches. But also, like, don't be afraid to like go outside of the box and like create modules or create things that you haven't seen done before.
That's good.
I think that's the most fun part for me. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I've never seen that approach in a module, but like, let's just try it and like, let's see if it works. And so I think the core of that is being willing to like get away from the noise and really figure out, okay, like what do I have to offer? What do I want to teach? Like,
Mhm.
how can I deliver the best product possible?
What does your flow look like? Like, do you survey your audience to see what they want? Do you send out ideas like, I'm thinking about making this or this? What would you like? Or is it just intuitive? What's your flow?
It's a combination of both because I really do feel like, and this is just like it's in courses, but it's also in content. Like you'll just be going about your day, and all of a sudden, like there's an idea that pops into your head, and you're like,
Yep.
oh, that could be something. Oh, that could be a post. Oh, that could be a blog post. That could be an email series. And so I do my best to capture all of that. Like I capture it all into a tiny little notebook,
Yep.
have this with me everywhere that I go. And I also feel like knowing your readers, knowing your audience, knowing what they want is so critical because like you have this opportunity to really serve them. Like they're
Yeah.
following you for a reason. And so why wouldn't you survey them? So we send out surveys, we like attach them in certain emails. Like when somebody comes into the Monday club, like I ask people to fill out a quick survey just so that we can know what they want, but also like who are you? Where did you
Yeah.
come from? How did you
Yeah.
find us? What do you need right now? And so that's just like a really cool element, I think, of like one of my favorite things that we've done within like my own work is just that ability to constantly be meeting new readers and learning where they're coming from.
That's so good. Yeah, I do. I think it's really key to find out what do you guys want? Let's see.
Yeah.
And people forget to ask what people actually want. So for you, what's something maybe out of the box you've done in a course that you've really enjoyed and it's worked well for you?
So I'm like a problem solver at heart. Like we were talking about, it's like, okay, like let's figure out what's working, what's not working. So one of the things that I noticed with the writing intensive was
Hmm.
that people were starting the course, but then were not finishing the course. And I looked
Yeah,
up all of the data and statistics on that, and it was like a very small percentage of people actually finish online courses,
3%.
3%.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, okay, well, like, how can we fix that? How can we
Yeah.
change that? And so I started adding this module up to the front of my courses where I had people sit down and create a roadmap for themselves and be realistic about when do you think you can finish this course? How much time could you give to it each week? And like them having a roadmap just in the same way that like I have a roadmap for my projects, I have a roadmap for the books that I write. Like all of a sudden, I saw that percentage start to triple. And so that I think is like a key that I wish like, we had more conversations with or like added to more courses is just like the ability to sit down and say, I want to hold myself accountable. I think I can finish this course in 6 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. And like being able to tell people too, like, whenever you finish is when you finish. Like, don't
Yeah.
get stuck on the details of that. Just be committed to finishing as well as you started. And it's just so cool to get emails from people because they'll be like, I set a goal to finish in 3 months and I did it. And like, they feel so proud that they accomplished the thing they set out to do.
That's so great. Go back. If somebody is thinking about creating a course, or they're thinking about writing a book, or they're thinking about starting a business, whatever it is that they feel like God has put in their heart, this
Yeah.
calling, this idea, what's your advice for women for not getting stuck in our heads and not self-sabotaging in that moment? Because it's so easy to, because we tell ourselves, I don't know what I'm doing. It's not the right time. Hello, it's never the right time.
Yeah.
I'm busy in this season. When are we not busy? All that stuff. How do you help women? What's your advice for not getting stuck in our heads and not moving forward with whatever God's called us to do?
Yeah. That's such a good question. I feel like in like preparation for this email and thinking about because I said email, sorry, podcast. I love this series because I think that there are so many people that are like, I want to know how to get from point A to point B, I want somebody to ask those questions.
Yeah.
And so I was reflecting on my own journey, and one of the things that I was struck by was like younger Hannah, like 6, 7, 8 years ago, like I just created things and threw them out there and just was like willing to see if it would work or it would flop,
Yeah.
like I'm embarrassed to admit this, but like my first product that I ever sold was gangster budget sheets.
Was it
I'm
called
not,
Gangster Budget Sheets?
yes, baller budget sheets
Okay,
because
my first product was the Smart Girl's Guide to Twitter in
see
2008.
that's
No,
amazing.
it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I don't even have a copy of it anymore. Okay, tell me about the gangster or baller budget sheets.
Well, I call them baller budget sheets, but I basically was, gosh, I was 27 years old and learning to like budget for the first time. And
Yeah.
I thought it'd be more inspiring if I had Tupac quotes on the budget sheets because I love rap. Um, and yeah, I sold them for $5 on my website, and it was like, I mean, I was shocked
You
by the
couldn't believe
amount
it.
of
People bought it.
people that
Yep.
bought that. And like,
Here's the thing. You were doing the thing. It didn't have to
yeah,
be perfect.
it didn't. No. And like
No.
you can always put something out there and learn from the people that will give you feedback, but I
Yeah.
wish I could, I don't know, I want to reclaim a little bit of that. Like let's just try it, and if it fails, it fails. That's fine, but we learned something, And so I think like honestly, I would just be like, be willing to experiment. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of the word that I use in like all areas of my business when I feel nervous or kind of afraid. Like, it's okay to feel nervous and afraid. It means that you care. It'd
Yep.
be more problematic if you felt nothing at all.
Yep.
Um, but also just experiment. You don't know what you don't know. And so, like, I would create some benchmarks for yourself that don't look just like numbers or finances or analytics, but like what would it look like for you to actually say like, oh, I've grown, or I've put in the work for this
Yeah.
thing, or I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And so yeah, I would just say like I think you kind of have to have that decision within yourself. It's like, I'm gonna do this because it would break my heart to not try.
Amen to that. I never set sales goals for books, for courses, for
Mm,
anything
yep.
because I don't control it.
Yep,
And
exactly.
like I could set some arbitrary with this course, I want to sell this, with this book, I want to, I want it in this many people's hands. But it's so arbitrary that why in the world would I do that? Because I can't control it. I can only control that I'm putting forth the effort. I can't
Yep.
control anything else, right?
It's so true.
Yeah.
Especially I think too when it comes to like that was something that was huge for me when it came to like launching books because like I feel like launching books is like the most vulnerable thing in the world, you know?
Oh,
Like
it's like walking in a crowded room naked. That's
oh,
what it is.
it's yeah, and it never gets less intense and you
Nope.
never get less anxious, but again, it means you care, but that mindset shift of like I don't control who writes or who reads this book. I
Yeah.
can only control the decisions and how I put myself out there because there's that part of me that still wants to hide. There's that part of me that wants to just say, I don't want to tell anybody about the book because I don't want to bother them. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you need to like tell people about it and tell people about it a lot if you
Yeah.
want people to actually see it. And that's like a mindset I'm trying to break every single day. And it's hard.
John Acuff told me years ago that um, as you're promoting books or promoting anything, promoting your work, when you start to feel really obnoxious and embarrassed that you talk about it so much, that's when you've talked about it enough that people are just beginning to pay attention.
Oh,
Right.
okay. That's a
And
good, yeah,
so
that's
I'm
a good
always
word.
like, okay, I'm
Oh,
going to talk about it some more. Yeah. Tell us with the new relationship that you have to your phone and social media as a creator,
mhm.
how are you balancing things in a healthier way?
This is always an ongoing process, you know, like I'm always learning, as I said. Um, I feel like one of my big rules that has like helped steer a lot of things and has helped me make feel the most myself is a rule of creating before you consume. And
Mm.
so that for me has looked like, okay, like in the morning when it's quiet, like take the time to write something. Or if you don't have the time in the morning, but you're going to have the time in the afternoon, still don't open up the portals. Like create
Yeah,
something before you consume something. And it doesn't
good.
even mean that you have to create a piece of content. I mean creation in the sense of like creating a space in your house,
Yeah.
creating a first aid
Cupcake.
kit, which I did
Yeah.
yesterday, a cupcake, an omelet, but like
Yeah.
fuel that creativity because I that's the thing. I believe that we're all actually creative, whether you are a doctor or you're an accountant or whatever, like we have creativity in our bones. So that's been a big one for me. And the other one that has been like a continual shift for me is that I think the more that we're on these platforms, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel like a propensity to almost be like a lurker sometimes.
Mhm.
And I don't even intentionally mean it, but I'm watching things or I'm viewing things, but I'm not interacting with the things.
Yeah.
And that's like not a space that I really like to be in. And so I've tried to remind myself when I'm stepping onto these platforms of like, you follow these people for a reason. These are a lot of people that you know and love and want to cheer on. And so being mindful that if I'm not really in the mood to do any of those things, I have no business being on the apps in that moment.
Smart.
And then when that mindset shift happens and I go on, I all of a sudden see posts in a different way where I'm like, oh, she's doing that. That's amazing. I love her. Let me leave a comment. Like, and so it's that mindset shift of like, if I feel I have nothing to give, the apps are not going to give it back to me.
Good. My rule of thumb is sometimes I'm not emotionally healthy enough to go on social media. Like if
Yep.
I'm
Amen.
going on social media because I want attention or I want to numb out or I'm angry at someone and I just want to scroll, it's only going to make me feel worse. And what
Yeah.
you mentioned about not engaging, research does show that if we are scrolling and not engaging, we will feel worse when we're done than when we first joined, like when
Yep.
we first
Oh,
opened up the
totally.
portal. Yeah, that's
And if
really
you're
good.
already feeling empty, then you're like under E and then going
Yeah,
to hang out with your husband, who you are going to snap at within 5 minutes.
100%. Yeah.
And I think another just big shift for me that I don't know why it never occurred to me in like 10 years is that I have become very prayerful with my content. I always like referenced God or found myself writing about God, but then not being careful to cultivate my own relationship with God in the secret places. Um, but just being able to sit with God and be like, okay, what do I need to post this week? What does somebody need to hear? And
Yeah.
I always feel like I hear things. And that actually, what it has done, it has taken off this need for me to care about whether a post does well or not, because I heard what I was supposed to post. And as long as there's one comment from one person that says, this is what I needed today, that's it.
Golden.
And so that has been really big for me and really freeing for me, is to just look for the one rather than looking for the masses. Kind of like
It's
how
so good.
Jesus did it, you know?
Hey, it's like there was something to that. Well, and we know most people on social media are lurkers. They're never going to comment. They're never going to
Yeah.
leave. They're
Yep.
never even going to like it. So we know that whatever we're posting is reaching people. So I
Yeah.
think learning to not look at those numbers is really important. Like I can't see likes on my Instagram. I know some people can, some people can't. So if I'm
Okay.
looking through the Instagram feed, I have no idea how many likes something gets, and it's delightful.
Oh, I need to, is that like a setting? I can just turn it
Oh,
off?
no, some people have it, some people don't. So,
Oh,
because they'll roll out different things in different ways. Okay, fun questions. You ready for
yeah.
fun questions?
Okay, let's do it.
So, a song right now that you're loving
Oh my gosh. I don't listen to music.
at all? Some people just aren't music people.
I know, isn't it so weird? Like
No,
it's
it's not weird. One of my
okay.
sons is always like, "I'm not a music person. Should I try to be?" And I'm like, "No. I mean, you don't have
I'm
to be a
not.
music person." Okay, what about TV or movie?
Okay. Gosh, I'm like I get to the end of the day and I'm tired and I want some reality TV in my
Yep.
life. I love the show. This is so embarrassing to admit it. Actually, I'm pretty proud of it. Um, I love Catfish. Like MTV
I've never seen
Catfish.
it.
Oh my gosh, it's like my favorite show. And it's just basically like you've never even seen the documentary. Okay. Do you know what a catfish is?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, like the creator of this documentary, it became a show, and they every episode catch people that are in fake relationships. And
So crazy.
the part of me that is like so intrigued by like the power of social media and like this
Yeah.
online world is like, I just love it. I love it. And it's like low stakes, doesn't require a lot of emotions, but isn't complete trash because like
Okay,
they're
why
helping
do people
people.
do it? Do they talk about why people do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like very deep psychological in the sense of like, I think a lot of people feel like if I just show up as I am, no one is going to want me, no one is going to love me. And so I'd
Yeah.
rather hide behind a guise. And usually that guise is somebody that is like very attractive and very good looking. But the kind of interesting thing about it is that you're forging these relationships over days and weeks and months. So it's like real emotions are involved, but like
Gosh.
you're not being truthful about how you look. And so the question is, can you love somebody based on how they look or not? Or can you not get over the fact that they lied to you? It's very complicated.
Well, I can see why you watch it. It is fascinating.
I've been watching it for like 10 plus years.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it. Okay, what about a movie? Do you ever watch movies? Or is it always like what the kids are watching?
I do feel like I've watched a lot of like Disney movies lately. Like we
Oh
are very
yeah.
much in our princess era. I, gosh, we go to the movie theater a lot, but I feel like the last time that we went to the movie theater was Oppenheimer, and that was last summer. So we
That's
really are
fair.
due. We're due for a movie date because you do a lot of movies.
I'm going tonight to see The Fall Guy, and I'm super excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see all the movies.
Okay, we need to become more movie people, I
It's
think, when
hard
it
when you have little kids.
yeah.
I go to the movies with my big kids. So yeah, I see everything except for horror and rom-coms.
Okay, I love horror, but
Can't do
lately
it.
I haven't done much of the horror.
Well, because you're in your princess era.
I'm in my princess. Yes, so like we're big on Mulan right now, which Mulan is actually a
It's a great
very
one.
intense movie. It's
Yeah.
intense.
The cartoon or the live action?
We haven't done the live action, but we've done the cartoon, and the
Cartoon's where it's
cartoon
at.
is Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. But I also was like, wow, like we're really going somewhere with this
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah, cartoons where it's at. Okay, let's see. What about a product that you told someone else they need to have it?
Okay. I am, you know what? There are a lot of moms that
Hmm.
listen to this podcast. And maybe, a lot of them have little kids like me.
Yeah.
I have been loving this app that I have on my iPad that like I do with Novi, and it's called Homer. And
Hmm.
it's a reading app because she came to me a few months ago. She's like, I want to learn to read, but like she's so stubborn and strong-willed, and I'm very stubborn and strong-willed.
I was going
And
to
so
say,
when
where does
I
she get that? I don't
yeah,
know.
right. So when I sat down to try to do reading lessons with her, because you know me, I love a plan. I'm like, Novi's disciplines. She was like, not about it, did not like it whatsoever. And I was crushed because I was like, I want you to read because then the world will open up to you, you know?
Mhm.
And so this app, it's like a fun game-based app that teaches them to read. And we do it together, like in the evening, and it's so much fun. She's learning her letters and her sounds, and she's doing it so much better than if I could ever teach her. But like, I'm like, this is such a resource and such a tool. Like, it's an app I pay $10 for a month, but like, she loves it. It's the only app on my iPad, and like, I just sing its praises because I love it so much.
And it's called Homer. That's a great
It's called
name.
Homer. Yep.
Okay, that is a great recommendation. I love that.
Yeah.
A lot of times I like to ask for software recommendations, but
Okay.
you've gone analog writing this book. So, do you have a software you're loving?
I do. I do. I love Notion. Do you use Notion?
I have it, but I already have great setups because everybody loves Notion. I downloaded it and I was like, maybe it will change my life, but I already have good setups elsewhere. You
Yeah, so
really love
don't,
it?
if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I will say for me, this is something like kind of software, but also just something that if I could go back to Hannah 12 years ago, I'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, do this at the very beginning. Is building a content library. Like
Yes.
that was like years into it that I started building that out, and it's still a work in progress, but we keep all of it in Notion. And so any idea is in Notion, any piece of content, anything that's been repurposed, all of it sits in Notion. But yeah, everything does get written down into notebooks before it goes into Notion. There
That's
are
great.
lots
It's
of
Google
notebooks.
Drive for me. So
Okay, yep.
even like video clips that have been used before in different ways with links to where you can find them in Drive, like a spreadsheet. Like here's the name of the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
video, here's the link to where to find it. It's been life changing. Yeah, if I could go back to document all of my content early on,
Right? We didn't
would have
know
been a
what we
game.
didn't know.
It's true. We didn't know that's why Smart Girl Summer exists to share
Because
all the little details.
we were in the wild west of the internet when it was
We
first
were.
starting. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, we were really just throwing things at the wall.
Yeah, but like you said, it's kind of beautiful to throw things at the wall. I was listening to
Yeah.
someone talk about social media recently, and he said that if you've had a little bit of success or you've had posts that have done well, this fear sets in about trying anything new that out of the
Mm,
fear that it won't do well in the future. And we really have to all get over our self consciousness or our egos about it. And so it's something that
yeah.
I've been thinking about a lot. Like,
That's beautiful.
how do we have fun with it? How do we give ourselves permission to throw things at the wall? Because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if we
No.
launch a course and at first people don't love it. We need to retool it. It doesn't matter if we put up an encouraging video and people go, you know,
Yeah.
it's part of growth and it's fun. Okay, I can't wait to have you back on this fall. We're going to talk about unplugging and we're going to get in the details of
Yeah.
what you've learned and practical tips about it. But it's just fun to hear about you as the writer behind the scenes and you as the businesswoman behind the scenes balancing it all. So thank you for joining us for Smart Girl Summer. Tell everyone where to find you.
You can find me at hannahbrencher.com. That's where all of my writing is housed. That's where the Monday Club is, my free email newsletter, and all of the courses. So, Hannah Brencher on all the platforms.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
How great is she? She's so great. We're going to have her back this fall to talk all about her new book. So much Hannah on the Allie Worthington Show this year. Okay, let's move on to coaching. This is my biggest success secret. This is something that some people might not like what I'm going to say, but success in life is not just about being smart or being naturally talented. In fact, I don't think it has that much to do with it to begin with. Lots of geniuses don't do anything with their lives, but people who consider themselves pretty average or mediocre are lapping them because of their work ethic, because they have a little bit of grit. This is the quality that will take you anywhere. You're interested in things. You want to figure it out. You don't want to quit, right? That's the magic. I want to tell you my story. As a student, I was pretty terrible. I was pretty mediocre. I remember starting in 6th grade doing homework. I went to a pretty advanced school and it was pretty intense and going, oh, I actually can't keep up with this. What happened was I had undiagnosed ADD. Now it is the kind that I have is ADHD-PI, which stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, predominantly inattentive presentation. Whatever. It used to be ADD. I think it's much easier. Basically, it means if I don't really love something, if I don't care about something, it's impossible. But if I love something, I have hyper focus. So I was diagnosed in college. I was medicated in college. That's how I'd survive. If I wasn't medicated, I could barely get through a semester. If I was medicated, I could do great. I stopped taking the medication when I was pregnant. I tried again after I was done having kids. I hated the side effects, so I just worked to manage it without medication with systems and nutrition and supplements. But this isn't an episode all about how to manage ADD in adult women. But I wanted to share it with you just to share that nobody would have ever looked at me and said, that girl, she's going places. She's going to build a successful company one day. She's going to be a great leader. She's going to help other people thrive in their companies and their careers. No one would have said that. I was a really mediocre student. I still, if one of the kids has homework to do and they're above 5th grade, I will look at it and be like, oh man, I would rather punch myself in the nose. But what I lacked in genetic genius, I made up for in grit. And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people will have things spoken over them that they aren't good at certain things. They're not smart. They're not this. They're not that. And we carry that with us. Grit will lap genius every single time. Seriously. I want you to remember that. Whatever you lack, you can work around it. I promise. The number one thing you need for success on top of grit is getting the support you need. Getting the support you need is the most important thing. One of the big reasons I see women fail in their dreams, whether it's to write a book or build a company or get a promotion at work, is the discomfort of not knowing if what they're doing is going to work, right? The payoff in the future, you're not quite sure if you're going to get it. It seems a long way off. And the discomfort that you feel from not knowing these things is what makes you go, it's not worth it. It's not for me. I thought I wanted this, but I'm going to stay over here where it's safe, where there's not a chance that I could disappoint myself or disappoint other people, right? But if you decide that you want something, even if the results aren't something that's necessarily guaranteed, which, hello, nothing is guaranteed in life, even if you're not sure how things are going to play out, it is okay, right? It's okay that you don't know if what you're working on will make it, but you're dedicated to it, right? If you keep going, you will get there. It may not be the exact way you want. God may, take this journey that he has you on and then move it around. And then you wake up one day and go, oh, I had no idea that me working hard at this was going to end to that. I love that. That's the way God works. Sometimes he'll let us have a certain goal in our heart to build strength and build skills in one area. But really, he's going to move that for something else, because I never could have imagined when I first started out that I would be doing everything I'm doing now. Okay, it's super important that you also have the help you need to get you there. You need people who know more than you helping you. That's the thing. No woman is an island, and no one can figure it out on her own. This could be a coach. It could be a mentor. It could be a group of like-minded women that you're in. Whatever it is that you want to be able to do, I want you to go for it, but you need help going for it. If you're trying to do it alone, it's going to be 10 times as hard. There's just no way around it. For you, this could mean taking a course to up your game in whatever field you're in. You may also want to look for a course that has a community or a group coaching aspect, because courses by themselves, without either a community aspect or a coaching aspect, it's still going to leave you on your own, right? I'm a little bit biased, of course, but I believe that every woman should have a coach. All successful people have coaches, executives, entrepreneurs, actors, athletes, writers, people who are just super healthy. And you're like, they must be born that way. No, they probably have a coach working with them on every little thing. Whatever your point A is right now, that you want to get to point B, you want to get a coach. You want to get a coach or a mentor who's going to help you get to point B. Every single one of us is in the middle of a forest going, I look around, but I don't see any trees. It's that coach or that mentor who's going to help you look around and see the trees. I'm going to tell you, here it is, here's what to do, here's how to do it. So whatever you want to do in life, wherever you want to find success, the number one success secret is to get gritty and to get the help you need. That is what I want you to do. I'm sure I've told you this story before, but end of 2020, beginning of 21, I was very burnout. I didn't even realize at the time I was so burnt out. And I remember praying one day saying, Lord, help me. What do you want me to do? And he said very clearly in my spirit, you know how sometimes he'll say just a few words, but he illuminates exactly what he means with everything? I said, Lord, tell me what you want me to do. And he said, get help. I'd spent so much time, and the end of 2020, beginning of 21 was a pretty dark time for everybody, just helping everybody else. And I had forgotten to take my own advice, which, sometimes we do. And I got my behind back in therapy. I hired a housekeeper. I hired a coach again. How was I a coach without a coach? That's just hubris and ego, right? I want you to not be afraid to invest in yourself. An investment in you really is an investment in your future, and your future success benefits everybody around you. It is not selfish to do this. I think even though it is my job to help other women succeed, I forgot the truth in all this. And it was the kindness of the Lord to remind me, get help. You're not an island. You're there in that forest looking around for a tree, and you can't find one. You need somebody else to come along beside you and help you. I believe that too many women are just setting themselves on fire, trying to keep everybody warm. Instead, my vision is that women can light a fire in our own soul, right? Partnering with God on this, and we can illuminate a healthier path for women around us instead of just letting ourselves get fried to a crisp every day, because that's what I see. Wait till I start talking to you about the burnout survey I sent out recently. It's pretty mind-blowing with the state of how women are doing right now. And what I want you to remember is you don't have to be the smartest, most talented person in the room. That is not what it takes to be successful. Instead, focus on building your grit and getting the help you need. You will not go wrong. You are worth it, and everyone you influence is worth it too. Okay, now recommendations. I promised you a movie. This one came out in May. It's called The Fall Guy. So it is a rom-com. I don't even like rom-coms, and I'm recommending it. So that shows you it's pretty good. It's a comedy, it's an action, it's a rom-com. It's a little bit of everything. Like I said, this isn't my genre. But anything Emily Blunt is in, I'm going to see everything. I love Emily Blunt. And Ryan Gosling is pretty darling too. For a while, I wasn't like, oh, anything he does, I'll go see. But after Ken, sign me up. And side note, one of my sons was telling me about an interview he was doing for press for Fall Guy. And he was talking about his movie career. And the interviewer said, we notice you're not doing a lot of dark movies. You're doing lighter movies since La La Land. Oh, I loved him in La La Land. You're doing a lot of lighter movies since La La Land, this and Barbie. And he said it's because he doesn't, I'm quoting it wrong because this is from my son, but basically he didn't want to be in a dark headspace because it doesn't put him in a good headspace for Eva Mendes, his partner, and their daughters. And I thought, oh, I love that. I love actors talking about that, like choosing roles that are good for the family. So big thumbs up to Ryan Gosling. But The Fall Guy is an absolute delight. It has 82 percent on Rotten Tomatoes. I feel like it should be higher. The night I went to go see it, I texted Lisa Whittle and said, "You and all your guys need to go see The Fall Guy because it's amazing." And she texted me, I don't know, the next day and said, "We went to go see it. It was great." So I give it 4 stars out of 5. I think you should watch it. Get a big tub of popcorn. It's an easy watch. It is just super, super fun. Another thing that's super fun, us having this time together every week. I am so glad you're here. I love that we have this time together because, as we were talking about earlier, an investment in you is an investment in everybody's lives that you touch. People are looking up to you. They are seeing how you grow. They're seeing how you handle situations. They're seeing how you're doing, and how you're doing matters to them. So we as women can't just let ourselves be burned up in the life of work. We need to invest in ourselves. We invest in ourselves because we believe in what God has put inside of us. We believe that God has put us here on earth to make an impact for good. That's why you're here every week. You're learning something just bit by bit that can help you grow, can help you lead, can help you follow the dreams that God has put in your heart, because God has created you to stand strong and do something special and unique in this world that only you can do. So keep stepping up, keep showing up, keep loving well, because the truth is, you cannot break a woman who gets her strength from God. I love to get to coach and equip you every week. I'll be back with you on Monday, and I hope you have a great day. Welcome. No, let me start again. Sorry. Okay. That was bone broth, and we don't need any herbs in my teeth. Okay. Don't know what I'm supposed to say. Sorry. And cut.